connectivity alternative paths. So the subway and the subsea and the terrestrial overview of the current connectivity path and introduction of actually connectivity alternative path. So we're going to talk about this. But before, I mean, me, you know, so that's not important. But what I would like you to know, and if you don't know them, I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. And Rob, if I may start with you, a quick introduction.
Okay. Hey, good afternoon. Double thank you for coming. After lunch is a kind of natural selection, so really appreciate your coming. So my name is Roque Lozano. I'm based in Dubai, working for Nokia. We don't sell any more mobile phones. This is normally the introduction.
I had them all. I had them all.
I know.
22K.
I know. We have even better things now, but are not exactly mobile phones. And we are not only mobile radio access providers. We provide the whole infrastructure, which I will try to describe very little later on here for all of you.
Thank you so much. Chris?
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Bailey. I'm the Managing Director for Ciena in Saudi Arabia, based in Riyadh. You will have seen quite a lot already today from Ciena, but we are a global leader in optical and routing solutions, including also software, including automation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Sudhir? It's on. It's on. Just shout.
Hello.
Yeah, of course.
Sudhir Juggernath, CEO of TelCables, Southeast, Middle East, and Asia. Part of the Angola Cables Group. We are the most interconnected operator in Africa. 70% of Africa's internet traffic goes on our network. And we own 3 submarine cables that connects Africa to South America and South America to the US. So theoretically, it's the shortest path to the US, and it's an alternate path to the US from Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan.
My name is Alan Hollander from Infinera. I'm responsible for the global subsea systems engineering team, which means the network designs. I've been with Infinera for about 7 years, but I've been about 25 years in the optical industry. Prior to Infinera was Ciena, and before Ciena was Nortel. Infinera is a company that makes optical transport solutions. And I hope that this panel will give you some more insights about the things we think about and work on. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome.
My name is Mohamed Saro. I'm based in Dubai. I'm responsible for the infrastructure development and pre-sales in Zoe. I'm sure that you're familiar with Zoe. You've been hearing about it from the morning. Zain Omantel International. Before Zoe, I joined Zain Wholesale. And then we started the journey together. And I'm pretty sure that today we'll be walking you through our infrastructure development and how do we have this as part of the overall strategy for the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohamed. So if I'm more than happy and obliged and honored to from Nokia do a keynote presentation. But before we do this, we have one last panelist here, actually, which is actually only virtual. So, Rohitash, are you with us?
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies, I got a conflict today, so I'm joining this session online. And I'm really missing the delicious lunch all of you had there. So I'm responsible for international infrastructure for Batelco and based out of Bahrain. And I'm looking in all their submarine cable projects. So one is the CMV6 that's already ongoing and a couple of more projects. And being in Bahrain in given advantage also, especially relevant to the today's topic when we see a combo of the subsea and terrestrial connectivity solutions. I hope to add some value to this session by providing insights from my experience that I had working in 3 years in the GCC region. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Rohitash. Thank you, and good to have you. But promise me one thing, Rohitash. Next time you will be here live. Is that a deal?
It's promised. Yeah, I'll be there, definitely.
Because we need you here, right? You know this, huh?
Yeah, certainly. Next time, if there's a conflict, I will choose this over another one.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to listen to whatever the plans are, or the overview, or what he wants to share with us. Rohitash, please, I would, if I may ask you But you're, there you go. Finally.
Thank you.
you. So what are you going to talk about?
I don't know. After the applause, I think it's not enough. Not needed.
Floor is yours.
Okay, so I will try to do two things. First, to keep my pitch in 7 minutes. And second, not mention AI more than this time. Okay, I will challenge myself on that. So the title is The Hero Combo of Subsea and Terrestrial. We call it in Nokia wet and dry. We like to call them surf and turf. So let me start for something very, I'm sure that we all agree. Life started in the sea. Digital life in this region, allow me to say, started as well in the sea. Okay? We get tons of data from the sea. The latest 2 cables arriving to the region, in addition to the many more to come, 7, 8 every year, every month we can discover a new cable, are bringing a single cable more capacity than the entire life of deployment of submarine cables has brought. Okay? So that is the pace in which we are increasing the connectivity through the submarine networks. What I try to show here is that submarine network is coming, is solving that digital gap of connectivity that we have before from the region, even though most of the traffic were a transit from Asia to Europe, mainly. We start to see more traffic destination, Middle East and Africa, and I'm very sure with all the digital agendas of all of these economies, we are going to be the source of information very soon, and we are going to contribute not just to transit the traffic, but to generate content, to generate knowledge, to avoid the word, okay? Because I want to make sure whenever someone talks about the famous word AI, we are talking about knowledge, knowledge sharing, knowledge empowerment. And this, I believe, is the killer application that we have been talking for years across all the telecommunications and digital services. So we believe that that digital gap becomes a digital opportunity. Becomes across the entire region, across all the segments, in the developing areas, in the very developed, in the rural and remote areas, in the business district centers of the cities. Still today, we cannot connect to the digital services to the maximum extent that we would like. But all of that is a real opportunity. It's the digital opportunity across all the network levels. To be very short, I will talk about the Gulf in particular. Okay? As I said before, one of the global key crossroads, but not anymore, is generating content, not only attracting content, but generating content for the rest of the world. And here is the wet and dry, what we try to express is what is the next advantage, the next opportunity. Those submarine cables find now a gap in the terrestrial networks, generate a gap. Again, it's an opportunity. And we see across the whole region, the operators, the industries, enterprises, neutral host, the whole ecosystem, trying to cover that, bringing the world opportunity to the world gap that we was in the connectivity. So we can put many more lines. We have to update the map with the Salala link after the announcement of this morning, but definitely this is going to be a real life. We were talking this morning about the quadruplication or duplication, not quadruplication, it's any multiplication. The resilience that the network requires is not going to be enough to be supported by 2 or 3 alternative routes. 4 and 5 are going to be needed. And everyone is looking for alternative routes, which I described very briefly here, through the corridor of Iraq, reaching Turkmenistan, or through Syria, reaching Turkey, and from then for Europe. By the way, reducing the latency significantly to reach the center of Europe, the Frankfurt point of presence, for example. In addition to the Red Sea, to the alternatives from Egypt, many corridors that we see growing and growing in the region. The same applies to Africa. For simplicity, I will just focus on the Middle East. But here is my first message to you. The submarine network is flooding the whole network, not only the data centers. And this is perhaps one of the points that I would like to bring. We are talking about digitalization boosted by the word that I cannot mention and pushed at the end for cloud services. All of that is cloud services. Cloud services are living in the data center, or get born in data centers, get mature, replicated, and get transported to other data centers or to the enterprises, to the users. And all of that goes through the IP transport layer, consolidated in the optical layer. So when we talk about the famous word that I cannot mention, we are talking about, again, the same IP traffic, consolidated in optical pipes in the most smart and safe possible way. And this is what we want to bring the attention here. When we talk about the optical and the wet and dry, the subsea and the terrestrial network, we cannot stop in the data centers. We have the solution before the data centers, submarine ultra long haul, inside the data center, in between the data center, and most importantly, from the data center to the edge, and from there to the access, to the campus, to the premises. Why is this so important? Because when we are talking about the cloud, we are talking about not a very far cloud in the sky. We are talking a very close. It's like the fog. The whole cloud is disaggregated, living in data centers which are disaggregated, getting closer and closer to the edge, to the user, because of latency, because of traffic contention, because of multiple things. So the network has to follow that disaggregation. And the whole IP and optics transport should be accommodated to allow, to facilitate that communication, which is crazy. I remember always like a pinball. You know, you played to the pinball, you send a ball, the ball starts to bump and generate 20 bumps. This is what happened with a session with one click. You reach one data center, but that generates 20, 30, 40, 100 of connectivities across data centers before coming back to you. That connectivity is a super complex and is the fundamental of make the cloud consumable or sustainable, or the business case returning demand. So this is what we try to put on the table, which is the wet and dry is not stopping in the data center, but goes through the data center to the edge, to the user. And we can do that still in the optical domain in one of our examples, just to stay to the 7 minutes, okay? So this is a very simple example that I try to simplify here, sorry. This is the very last slide, okay? So first one, we believe, is not only muscles. It's not only muscles. We can put more and more capacity. You have to be able to use it safely, with privacy, security, resilience, latency, all the KPIs. But you have to be able to use it. And you have to be able to expose to be consumed. So one of our proposals is very simple, is to have one separation, disaggregation of the network resources, combining wet and dry trunks, links, stations, in which you generate a virtual network that you can hand by yourself or hand to someone else who distributes that network to finally reach the wave services. And you can do that, and again, this is my key point, and probably we will debate later, is we don't stop in the data center. Let me be a little bit stubborn insisting on that. We can bring those optical domains from the subsea to the big backbones, reaching the big data center, jumping in between data center, and getting that as a Lander service even to the campus. That will provide the lowest latency, the lowest consumption per bit, and the most secure network. So again, KPIs are more or less the same: latency, security, resilience, agility. The word that I cannot mention, and the cloud service evolution requires not new KPIs, but the stream of the physics, the stream of the commercial laws to be satisfied. We only can do if we coordinate all of those resources under an automated single platform for the IP and the optical layer. And you make that consumable to the end user by something as simple as a click. Thank you very much.
Thank
A
you,
bit
Rob.
more than 7 minutes. Sorry.
No, fantastic. It was 9.5 minutes, huh? We counted this. But it was necessary to listen from A to Z. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the audience for Rob? They got it. They got it. You know, they got your surf and turf.
The lunchtime helps.
Yeah, it's after lunch, so then they are like, you know. So thank you again.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right, let's go into a discussion, gentlemen. What do you say? Yeah? Are ready, please? All right. So, Mohamed, if I may start with you. The current connectivity landscape. Can you give us an overview from your point of view? What do you see? What's currently happening? Let's have this helicopter view first from all the panelists. If you want to kick off.
So usually or traditionally, we were seeing that the submarine cables or international connectivity is following certain routes, few routes, intra-Asia, Southeastern Asia, Middle East, West Europe, cross-Pacific, cross-Atlantic. Recently, we started to see some players and some OTTs are exploring non-traditional routes, going from one location to the other where nobody was thinking about it from the latency perspective before.
Sorry.
Yep.
Were the operators sleeping again, or were the operators sleeping again, not seeing those routes?
No, actually, these routes are not optimal routes in terms of the latency. And I'd say that whoever is thinking of developing these routes right now is thinking about it because of the issues that are happening around us. Geopolitical issues in one location, some other location, some other problems. So they started to think of developing the unthinkable of before. So this is, if we're thinking about the global perspective, if we're focusing on the Middle East, because we're here sitting in the Middle East and we're, you know, with the discussion and the map that were there in the presentation, if we focus on the Middle East, cables were usually coming from Southeastern Asia, going through the Middle East. All of these cables used to go through the Red Sea. Many years ago, most of the operators and the OTTs, they were having a bit of an issue seeing that Egypt is becoming kind of concentration point for the cables. And they thought, why don't we start to develop another cable or another route within the same region to cross from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea? And they started to develop a route through the Levant region. Some of the cables already are being developed right now in this route. However, in the recent years, and due to the geopolitical issues, everybody is facing a major problem in crossing through Bab el-Mandeb, the entry point of the Red Sea. And most of the cables under construction or the cables in the planning phase are suffering from huge delays. So the usual thing was to think about alternatives. And the word alternative started to come as Iraq is a potential option. But to go to Iraq, you have the obstacle of passing through the whole Gulf. The Gulf is a shallow area, is not prepared for the submarine cables to go there. The cost is very high. Or to cross through terrestrially from the Indian Ocean all the way to the Red Sea, or to extend this and to cross to Egypt as well, and to reach all the way to the Mediterranean shores. To cross from where? From Oman, from UAE, from Bahrain. We have Rohitash with us. We don't need to forget him. So Bahrain is another option as well. So this is the name of the game right now. Everybody is looking for alternative routes, non-traditional routes. And these routes are going to be mixed between the submarine and the terrestrial routes.
So as well, surf and turf. Okay. Alan, what's your view?
Yeah, Mohamed obviously has the operator perspective. We, on the other hand, we are a supplier. So we do not develop our own cable systems. We rather interact and we are being consulted by different operators. And what we've seen, Eric, in the last few years, I would say, is the unlocking of new geographies by new cable systems. Starting, for example, with the Guyana to Africa cable systems, we are seeing Europe to South America direct. We are seeing Oman to Australia direct. And we are hearing about new cable developments. And in my view, the bandwidth requirements are now such that the business case for direct connectivity with all kinds of latency benefits and also cost benefits, because you kind of are deleting the intermediate nodes. That business case has now become valid for the development of new cable systems. And then, of course, and that's, I think, a trend that, and really the key topic of recent discussions and conferences. We see that all these cable systems have unique, I'd say, points that make them vulnerable. And that's maybe a separate topic, but that also drives new topologies and new architectures. So yes, we see a lot of interest in developing new cable systems.
Okay, thank you. Rohitash, let's move again from supplier to the operator. So from your point of view, what can you share with us?
Thank you, Eric, for inviting me for this topic as a third person. And I think Mohamed said very rightly, 90% of the traffic between Asia to Europe is passing through this single path only choking power point, which has been the choking point. And it's a public knowledge, like 6 of the ongoing projects are already stuck to cross the Bab el-Mandeb. And it's not like the people were not thinking about alternate route earlier, because what I see sometime necessity is the mother of the invention. And in this case, this is driven from both the supply side and the demand side. From the demand side, I think who are the major consumers of this mega capacity are the hyperscalers. Usually they do not prefer a single point of failure. And that is the region, that is what's happening in case of Egypt. And then, as Mohamed said, like some operators decided to look on the alternate route through the 11th region. Now the same problem has been into the Bab el-Mandeb, and all of us are known, I think, at the beginning of this 2024, when 3 cables went down simultaneously in that region, and suddenly there was a capacity crunch between Asia to Europe. So that's the region driven from the supply side, also to find the alternate route. And whenever there's an adversity, it's the right time to find an opportunity out of that adversity as well. So this is what's happening. That's why they have been put to move the highway, I would say, move the highway through this terrestrial connectivity solutions, either via Iraq or crossing via Saudi or Oman and Saudi or UAE and Saudi or Bahrain and Saudi. So these are the alternate route, these which are being considered now. And I think drawing has started since, I think, past 12 months to putting this on paper, and it really looks nice. But when we go deeper into the details, then there are more challenges that also I think we should be discussing even today. One of the regions, I think Eric, you had asked, like, operators were sleeping early. They were not sleeping, but it's not easy. It's a challenging, because it's easy to lay the cable through the international waters, but once you enter the territorial water, there are multiple challenges that you can encounter from the environment impact assessment point of view, from the maritime regulation point of view, and also from the local regulations permitting challenges point of view. So these are the challenges which were kind of not encouraging people to think about this route earlier, but now it has become necessity. And that's why people are considering these kind of routes. And I think by the next time we sit into the GCCM area in the same meeting, then I think we can highlight, like, some of the projects have really been the reality on the ground delivering this. I'm not sure what the latency will be a major factor to determine, but sometimes redundancy, reliability, or the scalability of the solution is going to play a major role. Because now Middle East is also becoming a hub and gateway to 3 continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa. So having this critical interconnection point in the region not only provide a regional connectivity stability, but it also provide a interconnection point to ensure global connectivity is also redundant and scalable. This is what it is happening in the region from my point of view.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now, Chris, your overview of the current connectivity paths,
Yes, I think just to perhaps summarize some of the comments today, for me, life was as it was, infrastructure was being built and used as it's always been. The challenges at Bab el-Mandeb that Mohamed mentioned, and also Rohitash, was ultimately the catalyst for change. So over the, I won't say how many years I've been in the industry, but the number of years.
No. Because then they're going to ask me, how long are you in there, Eric? No, we don't want this. No.
But I've spent a reasonable amount of time with the hyperscalers, and at the risk of speaking on their behalf, what will now, from my experience, they will see the Red Sea, particularly in that particular area, as a red flag on their network planning tools. So that doesn't mean that they can go back. Let's say things normalize. It's too late now. There will be change. There needs to be change. And ultimately that gives opportunity. So to Rocket's point about gaps create opportunities. I'm really seeing that in the region. I've spent a number of years in this region, and it could be a combination, and it will likely be a combination of all of the options, whether it's up through Iraq and Turkey, which has been there for years, but not necessarily at scale. So the scale needs to change. Equally, traversing the Arabian Peninsula, it needs to be at scale. Now, not all of the assets are available for that to happen on those two routes today. Whether we talk about Egypt has built out multiple paths and new paths are coming. So there are even recent developments to build from new points out of Saudi Arabia, whether it's Hakul or Duba, to different landing points in the Sinai Peninsula and generate new paths across Egypt. So that, at the risk of having Egypt as one kind of country, but as a route, is actually it's multiple paths, and that creates still diversity within that. All of this is part of the same dynamic of trying to find new paths, but it's complicated. And finally, then, as a result, the hyperscalers, they will see the alarms going off in their network planning and look at this and go, we need to find some way to mitigate this risk that could be opportunity for those in region. And they are looking at, and have announced in some cases, taking new systems, new subsea cables to Africa. So they might bypass the Middle East as a territory. Now, again, bypass is possibly a little bit of a controversial word because it isn't really about that. It's just providing the resilience that every network needs. So I think it's a way to see it as opportunity for us all, for all of those solutions, because all of them are going to be needed because of the scale of how data networks fundamentally are growing at such a rapid rate. The morning session, I know we weren't supposed to talk about AI, but all of the activity that's going on, announcements by the big hyperscalers, not just in one or two countries, but in a lot of territory, the investments that they're talking about mean you just have to have networks on massive scale, but that does come with the need for resilience to all of that. So I think it's a time now for us to, as an industry, to just see what those opportunities are and really accelerate them. And I think that's where I started out and looked at the catalyst for change. Now it's using that as the justification to accelerate and add to the networks that are absolutely needed.
You agree with him?
Absolutely. I think that this.
It's a pity because I really want.
No, but I can still make it. I can still make it emotional. I will say, I think it's now or never. Okay, it's now or never. So I think that when we discuss how we position, I mean, there is not alternative to digital. If you think as individual, as a professional, as a company, as a country, you have to embrace digitalization to the level maximum that you can. Thanks God will be something else than digitalization for the human enjoyment, okay? But definitely on the professional, the economical, will not be sustainable future if you don't get a significant part of your process and your knowledge digitalized. You will not exist in some way. So again, that digitalization with the famous word AI are cloud services. This is data center hyper-connected. And not only across the mountains and across the seas, as well across the neighborhoods, across the streets, across the business districts, across the walls in the side. So we think that the key, and I believe that you agree as well, one of the most extreme things that we have to secure is security. Security in the terms of resilience, services, and I'm sure will be 2 or 3 routes.
We could talk about security another 5 weeks.
Okay. Angel, but let me just make one word, okay?
Please.
But the security that we see now fundamental is everyone has put all the data exposed. We say the data came from the sea. Now we are going to live in the sea of data. Okay, we have to be safe in that sea. Okay, and this should not be safe only today, in which we are exposed to whatever power of AI capabilities are. Even in the future, we were talking about the supercomputer and the localization of those supercomputers. When it's going to be the quantum computing that is going to do the encryption of today, a kind of 3 digits lock. Okay, so we should put networks which are today quantum safe in that one, not only because of the reliability of the multiple routes and the protection across all the layers, but as well to secure the privacy and the security of the information, on the privacy or on the resilience with the quantum safe mechanism, which is another topic to discuss very long.
It's another excuse to have another 5 years of conferences, right? There you go. Which I'm in, by the way, so it's all good. I love it. So, Sudhir, your take on it, especially from the African side point of view. How do you see the connectivity landscape? What do you see, and what are, let's say, typical things that we should, look at, and what you could share with the audience?
Sure. Thank you. I think firstly, thank you to the GCCM committee for having me here. We really appreciate that. Look, Middle East Africa is the growing region. We are both combined is a huge population that's always connected, that want to be connected, and they need the data and applications as quick as possible. So my colleagues on the panel rightfully said, we need resilience. We need to look at the risks. We need to mitigate the risks. We've all experienced problems beginning of this year, whether it was the Red Sea, whether it was the west coast of Africa. I think the west coast, there was 4 cable systems down at the beginning of this year, and only 1 was up. So, we as the alternate provider, we saw a lot of value in that. We saw a lot of business from that. So, thanks to that. We routed a lot of the traffic over our own cable system, which is South Atlantic Cable System, SACS, which connects Africa to South America, then South America to the US. So that was valuable. When the Red Sea went down, a lot of East Coast Africa traffic was routed on our backbone as well. So that was important. And the cable stood long idle for some time, but we saw the value of that. The hyperscalers, the big carriers all saw that. So there is a need for an alternate path. There is a need for a resilient path. And to date, a lot of the big telcos and carriers still maintain the path. So, your primary route may be your primary route, but when something does happen, are you protected? So that's the outlook now. And, we're speaking about Middle East and Africa. Traditionally, a lot of the routing goes up north, that's to Europe and then across to US. I think the mindset needs to change. I think Africa is there. Africa will still always be there. Come down south or come down, get content from Africa, which is well served. Latency might be a problem, but that can be addressed. A lot of the data center, a lot of the content is moving actually from Europe down south. A lot of the hyperscalers are moving caches and actually nodes down south. So, Middle East being in the middle, something goes wrong going up north, why not come down south? So it's mindset, it's just a mindset and a way that we think needs to be changed.
No, and let's not forget, I mean, the content, the explosion of the content from the African continent will be huge. I mean, that's what we are saying for years, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So look, we see a lot of content moving from Europe. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Fortaleza, second to Singapore, is the most interconnected place on Earth. So a lot of the content from Europe are moving or is moving towards Fortaleza. And for Middle East being in the perfect geolocation for that, if something happens going up north, just route it down south, and you might find the latency, or especially for resilient purposes, you still have access to the content.
But isn't it true that once the content in Africa remains in Africa and not going north, for instance, to Europe, that it jeopardizes the current and the capacity on the current subsea cables up north? Or is it, well, no, that would be actually quite nice because finally we free up some capacity?
Oh, we free up capacity, and the capacity can be used for other purposes, but capacity will always still be used, you know.
Want to jump in? What's your view?
Yeah, I was thinking that capacity needs to be generated. It's not just consumer capacity. It's not just YouTube videos or Netflix. It's also
Never heard of YouTube and Netflix.
it's
No.
also AI, to use the word that should not be used, but AI certainly is going to be very disruptive. There's the use of AI, there's the learning of AI, there are different phases of AI. That will create new traffic patterns. The question is whether the African continent migrates to this new modus operandi. So not just as a huge consumer base, which it is, right? Which is now being unlocked by the new African cable systems, but whether or not Africa makes the jump to a new economic phase, right? And that I don't still see happening, right? I see all new innovative initiatives to create new data centers on new places. For me, it's not yet visible if that's also taking place in Africa.
Not on the short term. That's what you say.
Yes, I think it's a short-term issue, I believe. I think that the lack of power is problem as well to scale in places like Nigeria, South Africa, even Kenya, that they started to see. We have seen this morning announcement, and we saw the Oracle going to Morocco, going to some places. Lack of power is decreasing a little bit the speed there. But I believe what I said before, there is not alternative to digital. So the 1 billion people sub-Sahara to be coming in the next 20 years, those people should be connected. In 20 years from now, should be 1 billion of connectivity there. And they will use any resource that they allow them to connect to the rest of the world. It's an opportunity that we cannot miss, I believe.
No, we shouldn't miss, and they have the right. I mean, the unconnected needs to be connected. Chris?
Well, I wanted to pick up on also another theme to this, which is the commercials on some of this. So when there were the 3 outages that Rohitash mentioned in the Red Sea, traffic from the east coast of Africa was going around South Africa and back up the west coast. And speaking to one of the CEOs of one of the major cable providers on the east coast of Africa, I asked, okay, so when it normalizes, what's your plan? Will you look to then find diverse paths to come through the Middle East? And his answer was, well, I would, but I'm worried that it's not going to commercially make sense. And that's when you start to get into debates over cross connects and also just, you know, the cost of building networks through long terrestrial paths is that it's expensive. Then you get back into scale. And how do you find that right business model? But for now, that's an opportunity for those with capacity around Africa, is that if you're most of the way up the east coast of Africa, it will go round the other way around back to Europe, which is a dynamic that this region needs to really think about when it's looking at its business models for what is still a huge opportunity to be part of that solution. But interesting that right now, the argument is, well, actually, I'll go somewhere else.
Yep. All right, Mohamed. What are the new terrestrial projects and the new subsea projects or strategies for combining terrestrial and subsea routes? What do you see?
So,
How are you contributing to it?
so from Zoe perspective, Zoe and its shareholders, Oman Tel, Zinc KSA, and Zinc Group are building a huge terrestrial network, over 13,000 kilometers of new ducted terrestrial network. This network is going to be touching all of the open access or carrier neutral data centers within the region, and will be touching all the borders of the neighboring countries along the way. Of course, this network will be extended also into the cable landing stations, whether in Muscat Barqa area, whether in Salalah area, of course, SN1 as it's right now launched, and all of the new data centers, because there is a huge initiative for data centers in Saudi Arabia as well, and part of the vision of Saudi Arabia for the next years. So lots of carrier neutral data centers are going to be developed along the way as well. So this network is basically built to help availing routes, availing resiliency across the Mediterranean on capacity basis, on fiber basis, to all of the submarine cables who are looking for crossing the Middle East and trying to find alternative routes. So you can connect this through small regional cables, and you can go to Egypt and easily reach to the Mediterranean. You can connect this from the border side into Iraq, and then you can take the Iraq route all the way to Turkey and Europe. So this network, I believe it will contribute in helping the or finding a solution for the problem right now. And I believe that back to the point of Chris, he was talking about scalability. When you build the network the right way from the beginning, we took the decision from day one, for example, that we will build this network as a ducted network. This was kind of a huge investment, additional investment than the traditional way of developing the network. But from day one, we had the scalability in mind, because when we build a scalable network, automatically this will be reflected in the prices of the crossing for the cables. This will be reflected in the better operation and maintenance, better quality according to the international standards, unlike the other traditional routes. And I'm sure that the more we develop, the more the cables will be coming, the more routes that will be developed across the region. And this will be encouraging others as well to follow the same steps and to develop other routes as well.
Are we going fast enough?
No,
No,
never enough.
never fast enough.
Never
So
fast enough.
what to do? What is the right strategy then? Because that's what the people want to know.
So as I tried to explain in the very last slide, we have to expose the network capacity, and we need to automate the provisioning to the self-provisioning of the user. That is very easy to say. It's not that easy to
Some
implement,
challenges I can.
but definitely this is the way. And I think that big problems, big solutions. Okay? And again, if I am consistent to there is not alternative, it's not an opportunity only. It's a last chance. So you have to embrace that. And I think that the carriers and brave examples in the region, so for sure, but the business case that they have been is too tactical historically. We were talking about consumers mainly. Enterprise was, of course, part of the scope, but not that. We all have our kids with a better mobile than us, a better computer than us from the company. Even our coverage on Wi-Fi at home sometimes is even better than the one we have in enterprise. So when we talk about the enterprise business and we project the AI and the cloud services, all the digitalization, the demand is going to be that huge that the business cycle, the investment is not entering in the normal business as usual of the carrier. That is the big challenge. How you say you dimension their network properly, but what for? And how much is going to cost? How do you bring that business case upstairs in your office to say, I need not 10 by 200, okay, to build that one? How you demonstrate? So for me, the point is monetization. Expose the capacity, abstract it, and get the monetization from day one. Not only after a nice 5 years of transformation project and investment that no one is going to be patient for to wait for.
So Rohitash, is that then I come to you, Sudhir. Rohitash, do you agree with him, or I mean, he's asking because he's actually telling get some more money out of your pocket, you know, as well. That's what he's actually saying, right?
Put the money where matters. Put the money where matters.
So Rohitash, what's your view on this one? Are you putting some more money out of your pocket, or what?
Definitely, I think Bahrain definitely, or Batelco for that matter, is definitely putting a lot of money into the sea or into the water.
I know, and
as of now.
I'm teasing you, sorry, yeah, but of course, please continue.
Yeah. So I think in the last 1 or 2 years, initially, I think Batelco was kind of not going in big manner for the cable investments, but now it has really gone. I think 1.5 year back, Batelco announced around $250 million in investment into both the cable system and the data center. And Batelco is extending the CME6 cable all the way to Bahrain, and also it's putting Al-Khaliz cable connecting the GCC countries from Bahrain to Qatar, UAE, and Oman. And now what's happening, I think the need was already taken into the consideration by the industry, and industry started thinking about these alternate routes. Now, as I think my colleague Mohamed mentioned, some operators are already building the big terrestrial network in different countries and different GCC countries. What I see is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years is like all the investors or the subsea investors looking strategic approach to adopt this alternate route. So there is going to be a combination, like they thinking of their connecting their subsea cable with the terrestrial networks, and then finding the alternate route to reach from Asia to Europe. So that connection is going to happen. So next projects, I will not be surprised if the next cable system they plan that does not go Singapore to Red Sea directly, but it goes from Singapore to Arabian Gulf or via Iraq or another alternate route, overcoming these challenges and adding the required redundancy and resiliency. Having said that, this is not going to be a simple exercise. There are its own inherent challenges in that as well, because there is no international water in the entire Arabian Gulf is the territorial water. As it was mentioned earlier, it's a shallow water, a lot of pipeline crossings are going to be there. So it's not simple and easy, but how to make it cost effective? One area I see, like, put as much as fiber pair as possible and distribute across the multiple cable systems, and then connect with the multiple paths. How we are going to recover the money out of it? I attended one AI session in the morning, and it was forecasted to, like, AI traffic is going to be 2/3 of the traffic by 2030. So definitely demand is going to be there, and more redundancy requirement is going to be there. So now I think we should make it as a strategic investment now, and money will definitely come in. So put money now, we will earn more money in the future by realizing the benefits of this connectivity solution.
Okay, thank you. You know, Rohitash, what I would have, as an operator, reply to the suppliers would say, listen, I thank you for asking me to get some more money out of my pocket. I would say, return the question by saying, well, you know, supplier, why don't you come with some, you know, technology and advancements, you know, for deploy and you know, advancements. So you show me the way. So what would you answer to that?
I will do very friendly. I will say we are focusing all of our R&D on reducing the cost per bit. I start to work, I will not say the year, but when the point of demarcation of transport versus access was 2 megabits. Okay? On the same infrastructure that we pass 2 or 4 times 2 or 8 megas, now we pass tens of terabits. So the cost of deployment, the cost of energy per bit has been smashed by 1 million times. It's our responsibility. We are engineers. We have to solve the problem. We have to find the opportunity. We keep doing that. But I say at the beginning, and this would be my real answer, it's not only about the muscles. It's about how you manage the monetization of the investment to retrofit that investment one after the other one. We know that with money, everything is possible, and time. I know that perhaps in this region, people have money, well, but no time.
Cable and time.
Exactly. That's the point.
Get the shit.
We have the money, but we don't have the time. We don't have the time.
No.
And this is the opportunity that you have to get. So from the supplier point of view, from the humble engineering point of view, the best thing that we can do is to provide the lower cost per bit, the lower power consumption per bit. But we want the industry as well to put in value that what we are going to do is going to solve problems everywhere else, not only in telecommunications. Every single industry is going to benefit from us, but we don't get the credit, sorry to say. We all refer to the COVID time. Who remember how many people have been connected through the homes, working, studying, doing everything from a single point of failure network, like it's the fiber to the home, whatever. And that sustained this society. And I don't recall any network in the world that say the network of that country collapsed. I don't remember. We struggle, we have a lot of work to do during those days, but the network sustained the world. And I believe that this is a fair recognition that we as an industry have to take. And again, put the money where it matters. The infrastructure of telecommunication will enable every single advance in all the industries of the society.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously a slight plug for Ciena because we just launched WaveLogic 6 as our latest wavelength technology at 1.6 terabit waves. That in itself obviously increases the throughput. So start quickly on that. When you've got an existing fiber network that isn't scaled for what you see coming, you can optimize what you currently have by squeezing more down the same fiber. But to your point as well, Rocky, that with it comes a 50% power reduction over our previous generation of WaveLogic 5 in the power usage. Equally, it uses half the space in your shelf. Now, all of these are initiatives that are recognized within the industry that we're all collectively trying to do is to create a sustainable model because power is a challenge. So too, if you've got assets that you need to build out more because you need more space just for the equipment to do more, well, if you can reduce that by half, clearly that's an efficient model. And all of that feeds back into the opportunity that we started talking about of looking to how to build our infrastructure to now support the scale and volume of what's coming. And if I give one example of where the opportunity is, and it's similar to what Mohamed's doing with Zoe, is you build a network that is the opportunity out of the Bab al-Mandeb challenge is that subsea cables will ultimately need to build a path, terrestrial path, and it could be a 2,000 or 3,000 kilometer connection to come out at Salalah or in the Muscat area to connect on to India, Singapore. But if it's viewed as a cross connect, then it might be a 3,000 kilometer cross connect. That business wasn't there before this issue came out. So we started talking about this at the beginning about where there's a gap, where there's an opportunity. But if this is a revenue opportunity to help underwrite some of this investment that didn't exist before. So there might be 40, 50, 60 fiber pairs that need to traverse the Arabian Peninsula to come out either side. That's an investment that wasn't there before.
Okay, fair enough. You both told us how great you are,
Yes.
how fantastic
No.
you are, and what you all did.
Yes.
You know, and what you still want to do. But is it?
But we just started. We just started.
But is it enough for the operators? So
Yeah, in fact, if I have a different view.
Is this guy doing enough for you?
Well, for now they are. I have a different view. I have a word that I use and it may not be in the English dictionary or any dictionary. It's called co-opetition. Co-opetition meaning that competition works together to serve what needs to be done. That's connecting the unconnected. So as telcos and operators, we always got this thing, we are better than each other, but we need to work together. Use each other's strengths, not reinvent the wheel. Where I'm strong, use me. Where you are weak and where you are strong, I use you. And I think it's a good model to work because it saves money. There is investment made already in certain areas, certain cables, certain terrestrial parts. Use the people that have that already. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't build new builds where it's not necessary. And I think doing that, speed will be the next best thing.
Okay, Mohamed. Again, the question is: are those guys as good as they tell they are?
They are doing their best and they are developing
Good.
and they are.
Right.
They need to do more, of course. But
For less, I know.
yeah, they definitely need to do more from one perspective. And they, again, back to talking about the opportunity of the terrestrial route. I think this is an opportunity for the whole industry, including the vendors as well. Because exactly. And with this, lots of more equipment needs to be deployed because the technology on the terrestrial side is going to be completely different. And as Chris was saying rightly, it's 2,000-3,000 kilometers. So it's a long route where lots of equipment needs to be deployed. And this will definitely need more support from the vendor side on improving the prices specifically. And Alan as well, let's not forget Alan, he's sitting next to me. So definitely needs to put more effort because they, of course, they will see scale, which is completely different than what's happening today. So this opportunity is opening doors of something that was not there before. The submarine cable as a technology was limited to a number of fiber pairs. Right now, mixing the terrestrial part is going to help in adding additional resiliency, in adding additional improvement for the cost. And all of this will be reflected at the end for the cost of bit and on the time to market for the whole cable to be up and running, and lots of things. So everybody needs to cooperate together. We need to cooperate on the infrastructure, and we need to compete on the services. So definitely.
Okay, and then they need to make sure that they educate you in time. Now, Alan, you heard I tried to have them fighting, but they're too nice to each other. So
let me,
Holy Grail.
yeah, so Eric, I am at the place where strategy and plans meet reality, like a concrete floor, right?
Absolutely.
And the whole industry is coming with new flavors of transponders, giving you better cost, better power consumption. And that, of course, is good, because in the end, it's all about cost. But reality is also that with the new networks, you get new challenges. And I haven't heard anybody speaking about these new challenges, right? We are having more and more cable systems coming together in specific landing stations like Salalah. We expand into new geographies, like the introduction presentation showed very nicely, the overlay web of a new network. But in this room, people need, their responsibility is how to make this work, right? So we will see new challenges where we had a trend of passing through landing stations directly to data centers. The question is, will the data centers become the new hubs, the new cross points of the global network? What happens if you have a landing station, which is very popular, also mentioned earlier, and you have multiple data centers in a region? So you need to develop new, not necessarily technologies, but new approaches. You need to think about how do we optimize, how do we expand capacity, not just line rates, but capacity in a terrestrial network. One development is to expand spectrum on terrestrial networks. Another development is how do you enable contention-less networks? Because if you have all these huge amount of fiber pairs and you want to be cost effective, you need to do all the switching optically. How do you do that, right? You can't just go transponder end to end. There's one physics thing that has not yet been solved, which is how can you make a color change light, or how can you make light change color? So you
That's
need
easy. That's easy. You
So
close your eyes.
So you need to have a new type of approach. Maybe you need to have cost-effective pluggable optics, very high performance pluggable optics, which the industry partners are developing at the moment, but implement them in landing stations, which is a new concept. And finally, you need to have the ability to protect your traffic end to end. If something happens, you want to switch to a new path, but you want to do that in a not intrusive way, which does not block you to implement future networks. You don't want a dependency on a single technology or a single supplier. So it needs to be open. You need to have like an architecture that allows you to connect any to any, but in an open and future-proof way. And these are the questions I deal with on a daily basis. And I'm learning a lot by interacting with customers. And they give us new thoughts, which we hope to develop. And we've come up with, and let me just give you one example. For example, we implemented a network. It's Ellalink. I'll just make some publication for this. So Ellalink, it goes from South America to Europe, to Portugal. It's a transatlantic link. And in Europe, it connects to multiple data centers.
Barcelona.
It terminates and Barcelona, Madrid, Lisbon, 1,000 kilometers. And they can do any-to-any connectivity, any data center to any data center, connecting multiple fiber pairs from submarine to multiple data centers in such an open way. And they are, they're very positive about their network solution. And I think they're very innovative. I've not seen similar solutions in the market, but I suspect we will see further developments there.
Okay, well, thank you for taking me away. My last question, scoping the future. But Alan, as always, Fantastic. So, Rohitash, for you as well, let's have a, let's dream a little bit, right? Sometimes it's nice to dream, don't you think? Don't you think? Thank you. Thank you. So, Rohitash, looking into the glass ball, what would be your prediction, or what? Make it simpler. What would you like to see? What would be your takeaway on that?
I would definitely would like to see the multiple highways connecting everywhere, which were, I think I also saw in the presentations, where it's connected north to south, east to west, multiple highways. In case you have some problem in one highway, you can take the another highway. And also this connectivity has no meaning unless it is connected to the data centers where data is actually served. So that is also I want to see. And I think in the last 1 decade, one of the major hyperscaler approached Bahrain, and they asked for unique solutions. Then Bahrain was the first in the region to provide that unique solutions, which meets that hyperscaler, non-hyperscaler aspirations. And did Bahrain influence the region? Yes, it did. Now dark fiber pair as a product is available in the neighboring countries as well. So these kind of innovative or scalable solutions, which will attract the hyperscaler content delivery partners into the region, so most of the data can be served within the region only. And also I would like to see the southward as well, as it was said by one of the panelists. So multiple highways bringing the content into the data center, multiple data center, and it's connected with the data centers into the region itself. That's the picture I would like to see.
Okay, thank you, Mohamed.
So I'm seeing the alternative routes again as an opportunity. The more the operators will see that submarine cables are coming and using these alternative routes, the more that will be encouraged to develop more infrastructure. Again, to the point of Rohitash, multiple highways connecting different countries together. And I'm dreaming that the Arabian Peninsula and the whole Middle East at one point in time will be as connected as Europe. That's why, for example, as Zoe, we're calling our network Pan-Middle East. So I'm hoping that this will happen one day. The operators will be encouraged to put more money because the business case will make sense with...
And they should come up with better solutions, right?
Exactly.
I think
There is always.
Sudhir.
I think it's all about our customers. We live in a connected world. There's no two ways that we have to work together, and we need to look at alternate ways. So I think, I stand by my word, competition. Let's work together. Let's make our customers happier and make our networks more resilient by having multiple paths to get wherever we need to get.
Right. Chris.
So I will try and answer it through a conversation I had 2 weeks ago in Saudi Arabia, where
Is that a short story? Or
It is a short one.
Okay, that is good.
where I was asked, as we scale a network, let's not just think about AI, let's think about what's after AI. Yeah, at that point, my head exploded and I had to go and have a lie down.
Okay, I got it. Any last words from you, Alan?
I think this discussion shows that, the future and developing networks is not just, a single operator or a single supplier. It's something where more suppliers and operators need to cooperate. These complex infrastructures require a lot of discussion, interaction between the different organizations.
Thank you. Okay, so last famous words for this panel session and for the audience.
I just want to make clarification and one last thought. The proposal which I made in the last slide is a multi-operator, multi-vendor. Okay, it's not a single vendor. I didn't get in detail because I fully agree with Alan. We have to be ground rooted, right? Technology engineering is based on reality. Okay, but as we say in our latest launch of Sunday, we believe is today. Okay? And all of that challenge that you referred are discussions, and technology is evolving. The optical rollout today we can do with the optical domain, not only Nokia, I think Ciena, Infinera as well. We can do in the optical domain what we were doing in the electrical domain forever. We can do it now. It's a matter of network architecture and in my case, use case maximization. Because if not, we will not benefit as an industry of the relevance that we have. Okay.
Exactly. I think so too. With those famous words, I would like to end this session. Thank you for all your questions. You have been fantastic. No, but without any, thank you so much for being with us. I want to thank Rohitash. Thank you so much for being here virtual. And you know, Guy, we have the deal, huh? Next time you'll be here live, right? Sudhir, thank you.